Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 33 of this awesome, incredible Osu Let's Play series. In the last episode, I talked about the easy mod and some pointers for getting into that. And in this episode, I want to talk about ScoreV2 and sort of how it works, how it came to be, and also some common misconceptions about the mod. So this is also sort of going to be the first of a series of tournament-related episodes on this Let's Play series. So look forward to that. But before we get started, I, as usual, want to point out that I live stream every single day over at twitch.tv/DigitalHypno. So if you want to hang out with me or watch me play this game live, anything like that, would highly suggest stopping by over there, saying hello. And bonus points, if you tell me that you came from this Let's Play series, I'll be very, very happy to see you there. So yes, let's get started. So ScoreV2 is a scoring system that was mostly designed partly as the new scoring system, is sort of a trial of the future scoring system that Osu is leaning towards, and also sort of as a more balanced scoring system for tournament, competitive Osu environment. And so we can try ScoreV2 in single player by checking out this. So this is a ScoreV2 mod, or you can press the B button on your keyboard, and that is the toggle hotkey for that. And just as a recap, so if I just type ASDFG, should hopefully clarify or demonstrate the mod hotkeys that are relative to the QWERTY keyboard layout. So this should be self-explanatory that the B button is the hotkey for ScoreV2. So that is sort of reminder. I think I mentioned that in episode 2 or something. Anyway, ScoreV2. And you can see down there that I have it selected. So main characteristics of ScoreV2, for one, is that it standardizes the score out of 1 million points. So maximum score you can get is 1 million, and only things that can add to that are spinner bonus points and mod multipliers. So that is one side of ScoreV2. Something else is that's probably the biggest characteristic about ScoreV2 is what's called slider accuracy. So let me actually demonstrate it on this difficulty. So in ScoreV1, which is the typical scoring system that we're used to, it's a very combo-based scoring system. Sliders are okay. So the accuracy that you get on a slider depends only on the amount, or the parts, or how many parts of the slider you hit. So if you hit all the parts of the slider, then you will get a 300, no matter what timing you got on that slider. So let me just, it's probably easier if I just demonstrate. So watch the bar on the bottom of the, the hit accuracy bar. Okay, so first note, you can see the first note of the map I hit in the 100 range, but you can also see that I still have 100% accuracy. That's because as long as you hit all the parts of the slider, that is what matters to get a 300 in ScoreV1. But ScoreV2 changes that, and it tries to make it more like performance oriented, that like more, I guess, more skill oriented towards like proper timing, as a rhythm game probably should be. But notice what happens when I do the same thing in ScoreV2. I hit a note in the 100 zone. So hit the first note in the 100 zone, and as you can see, I actually got a 100. And so the misconception that I think happens with ScoreV2 a lot is that getting a 100 by mistiming in ScoreV2 on a slider looks the exact same as dropping a slider end with ScoreV1. So let me show this to you. So if I drop a slider end in ScoreV1, so even though, ignore that green line. So the first two notes here were in the 300 zone. But even though I hit those notes in the 300 zone, I dropped a slider end, and that is what led to a 100. And that looks the exact same as mistiming in ScoreV2. And actually, even in ScoreV2, so if I drop a slider end, even if I tap it in time, it looks the exact same as well. Oh, okay, well, I ended up mistiming the second one, but you can see I ended up getting 100s on both of them. So yeah, even dropping a slider end and also mistiming it still looks like getting a 100. So I think it's confusing to a lot of people. I think this is not super well documented, but yeah, I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so bad at aiming sliders with ScoreV2. Like ScoreV2 makes sliders a lot harder to aim. And I think that misconception comes from thinking that you were dropping slider ends when in reality you were just mistiming the sliders. So hopefully that sort of makes sense, that ScoreV2 incorporates what's called slider accuracy. So you're not actually dropping the slider ends, well, maybe you are, but you should probably be able to tell. And if you're just kind of getting 100s on sliders all over the place and you don't know why, it's probably just because you are mistiming them, because that is something that actually matters with ScoreV2. So yes, other things. Okay, so ScoreV2 was introduced in 2015 as so it was trying to get finalized in time for the Osu World Cup of 2015. So towards the later end of the year, I think it looks like October. Yeah, October-ish 2015. I will link the blog post of the so Peppy, who's the main developer of Osu, has a blog post where well, he used to post like blog updates, things like that. And there's one on the release of ScoreV2, which I will have in the description. But basically, so when ScoreV2 first came out, and let me actually demonstrate this in multiplayer. So, okay, so just make a new game, p size 1, it's 2, because I'm too lazy to put a password. So when ScoreV2 first came out, it was only accessible through a multiplayer lobby. So you can choose ScoreV2 as an option here. And it used to actually not be a mod that was choosable at all. Oh, uh-oh, goodbye, chat. So yeah, it used to not be a choosable mod. And if you had a local score of ScoreV2, then it wouldn't have the score itself on it. So actually I have a sample score from a couple of minutes ago, but you can see it says ScoreV2 in the mod thingy here. But I think actually, me. Yeah. Okay, so I made there was like a stream highlight that I uploaded with this map, and a couple of people were confused why the this top score was twice the amount as this one, and it's because this was done in multiplayer with ScoreV2, but it used to be the case that the mod thingy does not actually show on the local score, but now that is no longer the case, and I don't remember what the song is called. Sounds. Uh-oh, I don't remember what it's called. Okay, yeah, this one. Saved. Okay, nice. Yes, okay, so let's try this map and talk about the, I guess, more intricacies of ScoreV2. Okay, so I'm like trying to get adapted to playing the game. Hold on. Okay, so while ScoreV1, actually, why am I playing this difficulty? I'm not going to be able to talk and play at the same time. Okay, so let's just play the lower one. ScoreV1 is largely combo based. So basically with ScoreV1, if you get a 300 on a note, that just gets multiplied by your combo, and that number just gets added straight to your score. So it's very combo focused. But ScoreV2, obviously, so for one, it's sort of standardized to out of 1 million points. And with that, so according to the blog post from 2015 about ScoreV2, so about 70% of your score comes from the combo. And there's a bit more to it, obviously, but basically 70% is combo focused. And then 30% of your score is directly from accuracy. Actually, okay, so specifically it says 30% of the 1 million points is your accuracy to the power of 10. And is that right? Yeah. So that's what it says. And obviously I'll link the blog post in the description, but yes, it's a lot of, Okay, so, one thing I also want to mention is that ScoreV2 scores do not submit to your profile. I think in 2019, late 2019, they changed it so that like ScoreV2, it doesn't submit to the leaderboards, but like it would give you play count and like add your profile stats and things like that. But then people were like, like people used ScoreV2 to practice for tournaments because ScoreV2 is largely used in tournaments. And basically, like if the scores submitted to your profile, then your opponents would be able to see your scores, basically. And then the developer team was like, okay, yeah, we'll disable that for now. And so, yeah, it's not a thing anymore. It used to be for like a couple of weeks, I think, and then it was turned off. But yeah, ScoreV2 does not submit anything at all. And at least for the time being. This episode might get a little outdated, but anyway, so you'll notice, so on my local leaderboard, like I showed earlier, I had a score from a couple minutes ago, but I do not have a score on the map itself, and that is because ScoreV2 does not submit. So you guys, okay, so how do I word this? So Osu Laser has a scoring system that's very similar to ScoreV2, but it is actually, I think it's what's called ScoreV3. It's a little different from the, I guess, sort of alpha version of the scoring system that is ScoreV2. So, yes. So, like, those of you watching this trying to get a feel for how Osu Laser's scoring system is, that scoring system is actually a bit different. This video is focused mostly on ScoreV2 that is in the stable client, Osu Stable, which is the current version of the game that we know. And yeah, so result screen. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this. So down here you can see it's just going to be loading results forever because the score is not going to submit. You can still rate the map and things like that, but yeah, okay, so the score, as you can see, so even though I got a full combo, it's only 938,000 points. So usually when people talk about their ScoreV2 scores, it's they just say like the first 3 numbers. So I would say like I got 938k, or you can probably round it like 930k, 940k usually. If you're talking to your tournament team or something like that, that's usually what people say. So yes, okay, so a couple other things about ScoreV2, I guess, differences is that ScoreV2 has the new mod multipliers, or score multipliers for mods. So Hard Rock you probably know as 1.06 multiplier, and Double Time is 1.12. And with ScoreV2 that actually changes. Hard Rock is 1.10, Double Time is 1.20. So and that is also those are also the mod multipliers that exist on Osu Laser. So this is really truly the future scoring system that is going to exist moving forward in Osu. But yes, okay, so other things, sort of, I guess, why ScoreV2 sort of, I guess, came to be. Let me find the next map that I wanted to show you guys. Okay, let's see. Yes, this map is so good. Okay, so ScoreV1, okay, so if you can imagine a 4 versus 4 tournament that's in ScoreV1, like if everyone breaks combo in one part, like the middle of the map, and then like one person still has their combo, then their score is just going to be like way higher than everyone else's because it's very, you know, it's multiplicative, I guess. The score will just increase. So it leads to a lot of like, I guess, 1 versus 4 situations as opposed to sort of a more balanced team effort of like performance. Yeah, so ScoreV2 sort of exists to balance out the cap at which any one player can contribute to a team score. So although to be fair, like on very difficult tournament maps, it's still possible to just get such a good score that you beat everyone else, but that's besides the point, even with ScoreV2. But yeah, ScoreV2 was ultimately designed to standardize scoring and also to, I guess, incorporate like accuracy as a part of the score itself, because hopefully we can all agree that a 99% like one miss in the middle of the map is an overall better performance on the map than like 80%, but like you miss, or but you FC the entire map. Hopefully no one is disagreeing with that. So in a tournament context, okay, so ultimately, at least in my opinion, let me know if you disagree because we can have a conversation. But in tournaments, because the tournaments are designed for the like better performing player to win the point, right? Like in a tournament, it's like the whole point is that the player who performs better is going to win the match. So with that in mind, you want to incorporate like aspects of like actual performance of the map and not just like, you know, how much combo you are able to cheese out of the map. So I mean, okay, to be fair, 70% of your score being combo based is still quite a lot, and just because there's accuracy weighed into ScoreV2, don't think that combo doesn't matter, because combo is definitely still the main factor of your score. It's just that there is at least some merit to your accuracy. So I would say typically, like, as your combo, like if you ended up missing a lot in your run, then that's where accuracy ends up mattering a lot more to your score. But yeah, so I remember, okay, so this was back in 2015, when ScoreV2 was first being introduced, there was a lot of community backlash as to like, oh, is this really going to be like the future? Okay, so I think especially it was slider accuracy that people had the biggest issue with, because a lot of mappers especially, they were like, oh, we didn't create our maps like designed for like, you know, slider accuracy. Like mappers were like, oh, we sometimes intentionally put sliders in slower sections because it's easier to get accuracy, right? And that sort of was taken away by ScoreV2. And the general stance from the developers is like, if you can't get proper accuracy on sliders, then like you kind of suck at the game. You just get better. And I kind of agree with that, to be honest. So, yeah, let's see. But yeah, overall community backlash, for the most part, when ScoreV2 started to become a thing. And I think it took some time for the community to adapt to ScoreV2, especially in tournaments. I mean, it took a while. The OSU World Cup was sort of the official, obviously, implementation of ScoreV2. But still for a while, it was like 50-50 of like tournaments using ScoreV1 versus ScoreV2. Whereas nowadays, it's like very obviously every tournament is using ScoreV2 unless they either say explicitly or they don't know what they're doing. Pretty much. So, let's see, other things about ScoreV2. Oh, okay, so I want to mention also, so, okay, this is a bit unrelated to ScoreV2 itself, but the mod multiplier for no-fail in ScoreV2 is, okay, so typically when you use no-fail, your score gets cut in half, but that is not the case in ScoreV2. Let me show you. Let's see. Wow, awesome. Great song. So typically without ScoreV2, no-fail, yeah, cuts your score in half, but with no-fail, or with ScoreV2, it does not do that at all. It does not affect your score. And the reason basically is that in tournaments, this is going back to the same idea of like in tournaments, the whole point is for the better performing player to win that map, or like that point. And oh, third map, by the way. So failing the map, okay, so I was actually a very strong advocate for failed scores because, okay, so it used to be the case. So in multiplayer, you know, like when your health goes to 0, like the colors go gray and it's like, oh, you know, you failed, but you can keep playing, right? And if you stay failed by the end of the map, then like you're always on the bottom of the leaderboard, and effectively your score is 0, is basically how it's seen in like the OSU system if you are dead at the end of the map. And in tournaments, they used to treat that the same way, that no matter how you performed in the map itself, if you failed and did not recover by the end of the map, then your score would become 0. But, oh, also that popping sound is very interesting. I think that was a live stream notification, except I'm not live streaming, so it was interesting. Anyway, yeah, so, yeah, and then, so it used to be the case, right? Failing would make your score be 0 if you did not recover by the end of the map. But if you did recover by the end of the map, then no penalty at all. So, for example, okay, so basically, like you would only get punished for failing at the very end of the map. So if there was like this giant difficulty spike at the end or something, and you ended up failing, then your entire score would get negated. And that, okay, so hopefully I don't need to explain why that kind of goes against the whole point of tournament match, where the player who performed better should win the map, right? But it used to be the case for such a long time in tournaments that failing the map was just like a part of the tournament experience, and OMG, it adds to the hype, because what if the player fails? Oh my god, it's so crazy. So always leaving you on the edge of your seat, and there's no guaranteed wins, and yeah, that is not very smart. I will just put it that way. But I was a very strong advocate in the tournament scene, and like, especially I think throughout 2018, like every time I signed up for a tournament that didn't like, okay, so I would basically tell, okay, so I basically started a movement where like failed scores should count for their whole like entirety, because like that's sort of the whole point of a tournament. And every time I signed up for a tournament where that wasn't the case, I would like talk to the host about it, and I'm like, can you explain your reasoning as to why you think failed scores should be 0 when the player clearly did not AFK the entire map? Like, they obviously played the map and got a score, and why is it being ignored, right? So yeah, eventually, long story short, the Osu staff implemented no fail basically as like a forced part of the. So actually, it took a while because the developers initially they allowed no fail to be taken. I think it was Osu World Cup 2019 that it was first given as an option. But how they did it is they would give all the players the choice as to whether or not to take no fail, because the developers were like, well, maybe some people want to, you know, have that hype aspect where it would be totally radical and hilarious if they just like missed the last pattern of the map and their score becomes 0, no matter how well they performed. So the developers were like, yeah, you know, just in case players want to add that extra thrill to their tournament World Cup experience, they can choose to not take no fail. So we'll make it an option. So yeah, obviously everyone took no fail in the World Cup because that is kind of the smart thing to do. And nowadays it's very standardized that ScoreV2 no fail is basically your health bar is not an indication of your actual performance on the map. It's more so an indication of the HP setting number of the map. So yeah, hopefully that sort of clarifies that. But yeah, basically, long story short, ScoreV2 is the more standardized scoring system that exists for tournament play largely, but it is also going to be the main scoring system moving forward in the coming years as what's called Osu Laser, which is basically the new Osu update. And if you're interested in Osu Laser, by the way, if later on in this Let's Play series, I'm actually going to be switching over to the Osu Laser client, so look forward to that. Not yet, obviously. I think there's still more to be done on the stable client, which is, you know, the current one that we all know. But yes. Oh, okay. You can see. Okay, so my local scores. I have ScoreV2 and ScoreV1. Obviously, you can see the very clear difference here in score number. But yeah. Okay, this is also a good demonstration of how accuracy is weighed into your score quite a lot. So this is only 6 100s, it's very close to 1 million points, whereas I pretty much lost 1,000 points, 100,000 points, just for what, 3% accuracy. So yeah, very weighted into, yeah, so accuracy is definitely very weighted into your score, and that is something that is obviously intentional, and it tries to reflect the player's performance a lot better. So yes, this is main sort of introduction to ScoreV2. Hopefully that was clear. And also okay, so actually I guess one thing is that you might find, so me in particular, so you guys might already know if you're on episode 33, but I do not really like so personally I have 0 A ranks on my profile. It's just something that I think looks cool on your profile, so like having a very sort of clean look. So I try to not submit scores unless it's an S rank or SS rank. So yes, for that reason, I typically, like if I want to play through an entire map, then I usually use ScoreV2 so that it doesn't submit. And then since I'm using ScoreV2, I figure I might as well also use no fail because it just sort of, it lets me play through the entire map, right? And it doesn't affect your score and just lets you play through the entire thing. So usually throughout this series, I haven't been using ScoreV2, mostly because I hadn't introduced it yet, but I'm not sure if I will or won't. I think I'll probably stick to ScoreV1 for the majority of the future episodes, but yeah, I think that probably wraps things up for this episode. As usual, the maps that I played today will be linked in the description, but yeah, look forward to future episodes where I will be discussing other tournament related things, you know, how to get into tournaments, like what to be aware of when starting tournaments and things like that. But that is all stuff for future episodes. And speaking of future episodes, you guys should check out my channel and watch the future episodes if you're watching in the future, because I upload these every single day. And also I live stream on Twitch every single day. I know you guys are probably sick of hearing me say that, but I'm not saying it for nothing. Okay, I would be very happy to be able to hang out with all of you guys. If you guys have questions for me, anything like that, then I also always answer questions live on my live streams. But yeah, with that, I'll see you guys next time.